Ladies and gentlemen, this is America's Healthcare Advocate.
Broadcasting coast to coast across the USA.
Your guide to protecting your personal health, bringing you simplified answers to the complex questions surrounding healthcare.
Everything from cancer to liver transplants.
Nutrition, exercise,
My yoga and Pilates instructor, Dana Goodale.
mental health, and even pet care.
Dr. Wayne Hunthausen, Westwood Animal Hospital.
Empowering you to take control of your health and wellness.
My very special guest today, Grace Marie Turner, president of the Galen Institute. Welcome back, Grace Marie.
Well, Carrie, it's a pleasure to be with you, and I do have to say, you are the most knowledgeable about health policy, just superlative.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, and now, America's Healthcare Advocate, Carrie Hall.
Hello, America. Welcome to America's Healthcare Advocate Show, broadcasting coast to coast across the USA here on the HI Radio Network. You can find out more about us by going to our website, americashealthcareadvocate.com, americashealthcareadvocate.com. You've got a question, suggestion, something I can help you with, send me an email. I'll be happy to get back to you in any way that I can. My producers today, the always perfect Mr. Dave Thiessen and Garner Cowdery. Dave Thiessen behind the cameras. He posts all these shows on our 16 podcast platforms and our YouTube channel, and Garner Cowdery is behind the microphones here in our Cumulus Studios in Overland Park, Kansas. I want to give a shout out to 95.5 FM, 1440 AM, the big talker in Topeka, Kansas. We are recently joined by them. We're on the air up there on Saturday mornings. Very happy to be part of that family and welcome them to our family at America's Healthcare Advocate. If you are chronologically challenged, like me, and you need Medicare, you can always call the lovely Carol Lee Steele at RPS Benefits by Design anywhere in the country. I get a lot of emails about Carol Lee and how she helps people. I got one the other day. She was on a 4-way call with the providers, with CMS, and a client getting a problem solved that I guarantee you, if you had bought your Medicare plan from one of those television commercials that Joe Namath does, you probably wouldn't have somebody there to help you. The point I'm making is she's always there, and the staff at RPS Benefits by Design is always there to take care of you once you purchase a policy. Also, if you are looking for employer-sponsored health care, Maria Ahlers will be happy to help you. She just finished helping a group in Tennessee on a 500 life case, and she's sitting right here in studio today. So they can help any employer anywhere in the country with innovative plans that you may or may not even know about. So you might want to give her a call at 877-385-2224. That's 877-385-2224. All right, today's show, we're going to have two topics, basically. We're going to talk a little bit about RPS Benefits by Design and some of the things they do outside of the realm of health insurance. And also joining us today is Brian Morris from Leadercast, and we're going to be talking about their program and what they do and an event they've got coming up on April the 8th. So welcome, Brian.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And welcome back for what, the 15th or 20th time? I think it's something like that. It's got to be close to that.
We're kind of like an old married couple, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. We've
Yes.
been doing this a week or two, to say the least.
Yes, that's right.
So it was interesting. I saw that email. Carol Lee I think she was on the phone for an hour.
She was.
With 4 different groups trying to unwind a mess at CMS. And that, it made me think every time I see William Devane or Joe Namath or whoever the celebrity flavor of the day is, up doing these Medicare commercials, ask yourself a question. What are you going to do, not if, but when you have a claims problem or a provider problem and you're trying to get through on one of these government lines to get somebody to help you? Good luck.
That's right. And our experts have so many connections that they can reach out to and work with. And, as a team, we have a plethora of experience, so we can all put our heads together to figure out how we can help our clients.
So let's talk about some of these other things. So one of the first ones that comes to mind is COBRA. And I always find this interesting because back in the day when I was running Benefits by Design, you would sit with a client and you'd put a group health insurance plan in place, and then you would try to explain COBRA benefits to them, and they kind of get a fog. And a lot of them, we'll handle the COBRA. Well, the problem is if you don't do it by the book, and you have an employee that claims you did not offer them COBRA benefits, you're going to get the bill.
That's right.
So explain that and just why this COBRA thing, it's tricky. It's not easy to deal with. Again, you're dealing with the Department of Labor. It's another government entity. You would do, my advice is to avoid it at all costs. if you can. But talk just what are the employer's responsibilities under COBRA, and then how do you deal with that?
Well, depending on the size of the organization, you would either do state continuation or you would do COBRA, and all the rules are different from state to state. So we have partnerships that are the subject matter experts to help make sure that you're within compliance. Employers, once an employee leaves their organization, again, depending on the size of the organization, either you're required within a certain time frame to send out their COBRA notification or state continuation. And that's what we help our clients do. Not just about benefits, but all the other compliance pieces. We have partners that we work with for COBRA, for FSA, HSA, overall compliance, your ACA reporting. If you need a learning management system, we have partnerships to do that. And of course, with Brian Morris, we have a strategic partner with him with Leadercast.
So that becomes more than just health insurance.
That's right.
Now you're talking handling all employee matters in terms of HR and how they work. The COBRA thing is interesting though, because I can go back and think of cases where employers handled themselves, said that they had signed up the client. The client declined to take the COBRA, and in one particular case, the client went to the emergency room, had a bill of $15,000, and turned around and said, "Well, the employer never offered me COBRA payments." The good news in that particular case was we had proof.
That's right.
That the letter had been sent, that had been offered it, and they had not responded or decided to take the benefit. And the problem is, you have to prove yourself innocent in the eyes of the Department of Labor. You're guilty until proven innocent. It's not a question where you say, well, I did it. Okay, that's fine. No, you have to prove that you did it to the satisfaction of the DOL.
And we take that burden off of our clients by engaging with a strategic partner who are the experts, who are responsible for sending the COBRA notices out, collecting the premiums, making sure that employee gets enrolled. Now, as we all know, COBRA is very expensive, Carrie. So oftentimes, some of those employees cannot afford COBRA. So then we have other options, Marketplace that we can help them, where we can find subsidies. If they're aging into Medicare, we can help them with those enrollments as well. So with COBRA and the expense, we can look at other options that might be more affordable for the employees.
And let me explain why COBRA is expensive. You're paying 100% of the premium, meaning you're paying the portion that you pay now if you're an employee, but you're also paying the portion the employer pays, plus another 1%.
Plus administrative fees, yes.
Yeah, so it becomes critically expensive for people. And to Maria's point, there are options out there that make a lot more sense, and you can avail yourself of those options pretty quickly. In some cases, it may be imperative to stay on COBRA, but you need to understand what you're doing, and that's the part that you take over and take the burden off the employer, so the employer is able to do what needs to be done.
Yes, they just inform us of their employee that's been termed, and then we take it from there.
And you do the mailings, you collect the premiums, and that's another piece that's important is the employee is responsible for paying the premiums, not the employer. You're off of
That's right.
But you still have to have proof that you offered it, and then if they choose to do it, somebody has to collect those premiums and get them in to the carrier so they can stay on COBRA. How long do the COBRA benefits last versus state continuation?
18 months.
For both?
I believe, yes.
Okay, so you've got an 18...
And it depends on the state.
Again, yeah, and they're all different, and
Yes.
that's a very interesting point and something you need to be aware of. So when we come back from the break, I'm going to talk a little bit about HSA, FSA compliance, and some other things, and then we're going to switch and start talking to Brian Morris about Leadercast. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after the break. You're listening to America's Healthcare Advocate, broadcasting here on the HI Radio Network, coast to coast across the USA. If you want to reach out to Maria, maybe you have a question or something you'd like help with, 877-385-2224. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after the break here on America's Healthcare Advocate. Welcome back. You're listening to America's Healthcare Advocate Show, broadcasting coast to coast across the USA. You know, these shows are posted on 16 podcast platforms, and they are up on our YouTube channel. So if you want to tell somebody about it or go back and listen to it again, or maybe there's somebody in your organization you want to share some of this information with, you can do that by going up to the podcast platforms, SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, We're on all of them, at least as far as I know. So you can certainly find us with no trouble. Also, the YouTube platform, America's Healthcare Advocate. Maria Ahlers in studio with me, the president of RPS Benefits by Design, and Brian Morris from Leadercast. We are happy to have both of them in studio today. Let's wrap up this little piece on FSA, HSA, because I think that gets very confusing for people. So a quick few words about FSA, HSA, and then we'll switch to talking to Brian.
Yeah, that's great. FSA is better known as the use it or lose it. It's pre-taxed that you can use for medical and even some over-the-counter medications or Band-Aids or feminine hygiene. And then HSA, you would need to have a high deductible health plan to be able to participate in an HSA. And that one is really, you can accrue your medical expenses on there. So it's there to use for medical expenses. You don't lose it. It just rolls over year after year. And after you reach a certain amount, you can actually invest it in the money market. They're great pre-tax benefits. So some companies, most of our clients do offer it. And you can use it for medical, but you can also use it for dependent on the FSA.
And the key part that Maria said is it's not a use it or lose it. And a lot of people confuse this, and so it's not. Whatever you don't use in the particular year, after whatever you've contributed to that plan, rolls over to the next year. So it's a great plan, especially for people that are empty nesters and don't have children at home and have a lot of back and forth running to the doctor, running to the ER clinic, running to the urgent care. I've got 6 grandchildren, believe me. I hear about it all the time. But for empty nesters, those HSAs turn out to be really good plans. They're a lot less money. And again, there's a tax savings. So thank you. All right. So introducing Brian. Brian, you are the president of Leadercast. You help companies of all sizes. Brian and his wife live in Olathe, Kansas. They have 6 children, and I have 6 grandchildren. Thank God they don't live with me. I don't even want to know what having 6 children in one house must be like. Because when I go to my daughter in Washington State who has 4, it's like a circus, so I don't even know what having 6 must be like. God bless you and your wife, pal.
Thank you. It's they're actually been on. They went to see my wife's parents in Arkansas, so I've been home alone the last 4 days.
Oh my God!
And it is eerily quiet. So you would think that you would enjoy it, but you go from a madhouse to the quietness. It's kind of crazy.
It's kind of remarkable. So let's talk a little bit about Leadercast. It's been around for 25 years, recognized as a premier source of leadership development, delivering world-class speakers, actions, insights, and impactful content, inspiring experiences to help companies and organizations grow. You know, this is becoming something we're seeing a lot more of. Back in the day, CEOs and companies didn't do this kind of thing. Hey, we'll figure it out. Okay, we got this, which 9 times out of 10 they didn't. Okay. But having somebody as an outside source to do coaching and help leadership work through issues, how important is that for a company in order to be able to maintain staff, retain staff, and attract people that you want to come to your organization, Brian?
Yeah, and you nailed it. 10, 15 years ago, it was really a kind of a cultural thing. So people that were investing in leadership development, they viewed it as, how do we make our culture better? As kind of the soft investment in their people. But now the data is coming back, and some pretty hard data showing the ROI on leadership development, because it goes to your very point of people that are engaged, feel fulfilled, they respond better, they work harder, they give more effort. And so now they're putting dollar amounts to the cost of good leadership and bad leadership. So it really has changed over the last decade as more data has come and been compiled, that you can't really afford not to do it anymore because of the impact it can have on your company's bottom line and just your culture in general too.
And I'll add something to that. If you are an entrepreneur, you own a company, and you think you've got a window. Everybody's got a price. Everybody has a point where they typically want to get out, unless you're Warren Buffett. When people come in to evaluate your company, they look at this. And if it's there, it adds value to the company in terms of, the EBITDA, what they're willing to pay, et cetera. So it's kind of a two-way street, isn't it? You're not just improving, the working conditions, the morale of the people that are working for you, how they feel satisfaction about their jobs and what they're doing. But you're also investing in something so that if some point down the road you have an exit strategy, that's going to have something to do with how that exit strategy goes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very strategic, and these companies that are seeing that and putting in the work, making the investment in, and we call it an investment in your company and in your people, in investments, hopefully, accrue over time and become positive. And so it's no different with developing your people, developing your leaders. And you're right, when people are looking to come in and purchase companies and they see the health of the company overall, the health of the employees, it makes that company much more attractive.
So how do you, what's the easiest way for people to engage with you and your organization? The website is leadercast.com. You've got an event coming up here on April 8th, right here in Kansas City, by the way, at the Midland Theater. But what's the easiest way for people to engage with you? Is it, Brian, did they go to the website? I was on your website this morning, send you an email. Is that the easiest way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, go to leadercast.com. We actually have 3 kind of portals or buttons that will take you, if you're interested in coming to the live event in Kansas City. So you mentioned first time in 25 years. We're bringing it here. It was in Atlanta for about 20, Cincinnati for 4, and then now in Kansas City. So we're really excited to be bringing these world-class speakers into my hometown, all of our hometown in Kansas City. But we also, the majority of our business is done nationwide, where we will take the content that we record at that live event and we put it on our Leadercast 365 platform, and then it's distributed really worldwide on May 8th. So if you're not in Kansas City, you can't attend live, or your company is interested in utilizing our leadership development materials, there's a way to do it through our portal. And we work with some very high-level organizations, NASA, Home Depot, Toyota, and then all the way down to smaller shops or family-owned shops that still value and understand the need to invest in their employees and the need to develop their leaders. So we have multiple ways that you can get involved with Leadercast, but it all starts going to leadercast.com and following whichever one is relative to your need.
Yeah, and the nice thing is that you're not required to have 100 people in your company or 200 people, whatever the case may be. As Brian said, you can be a small organization, 30, 40, 20, whatever the case may be, and everybody has a need for this. I mean, he mentioned some of them: NASA, Toyota, Home Depot, the U.S. Air Force. Yeah, I'd say they've got a pretty good pedigree. So it's certainly something worth looking into, and it's certainly something that can help a long-term solution about how you deal with employees. And it's funny, because we were talking to somebody we're bringing on at the Tego here last week, and the one thing that kept coming back to why this person wanted to come to work for us was our culture. And we do this kind of thing in our company, and it's critically important, I think, for leaders to understand how this impacts whether people want to work for you or they don't, and culture has a lot to do with it. So if you want information, the website is leadercast.com, leadercast.com. They've got some pretty good speakers there. They've got Dominic Dawes there. You've got Bob Hendrick from the Negro Baseball League's Museum here in Kansas City, and a host of other people. We'll talk more about that when we come back from the break. You're listening to America's Healthcare Advocate, broadcasting here on the HIE Radio Network, coast to coast across the USA. Stay right there. We'll be back with more. Welcome back to America's Healthcare Advocate Show, broadcasting coast to coast across the USA here on the HIE Radio Network. If you want to find out more about this upcoming conference at Leadercast, go to leadercast.com. It is going to be live here in Kansas City on April 8th. They've got a great lineup of speakers coming. As I mentioned earlier, Olympic gold medalist. You've got John Gordon, a leadership consultant and author of Energy Bus. You've got Hal Elrod, best-selling author of Miracle Morning. Bob Kendrick, president of the Negro Leagues Museum. Just a host of great speakers and an opportunity to learn. Look, you've got nothing to lose, okay? And you've got a lot to gain by taking advantage of this. So it's April 8th. Go up to the website, leadercast.com, leadercast.com. All right, Brian, let's kind of talk a little bit about what's actually going to happen at the event, which will give people an idea of some of the overall programs that you have, Brian.
Yeah, Kerry, a recent study that just came out shows that 75% of U.S. employees state the most stressful aspect of their entire life is their immediate boss. And so it is not paying your mortgage. I hope
you're all hearing this. You're hearing this out there.
It's not paying your mortgage. It's not raising your children, but it's your boss. And what we know about what people are taking home with them from work is that it then impacts your home life. It impacts your children. And so we truly believe that if we can help these companies build better leaders, it's going to trickle down and not just build a better company or better employees, but better families and a better community. So that is a stat that for me has been really eye-opening. And then the other one that came out is that 65% of U.S. employees would rather have a new boss than a pay raise. And so when we start looking at some of this data...
Wait, back to... do that one more time.
Yeah, 65% of U.S. employees would rather have a new boss than a pay raise.
That's pretty damaging, okay? I mean, if you think that you don't have a problem or that you don't have room for improvement, you might want to think again, because clearly there are some issues. I sat in the parking lot this morning before I came here to do the show with an ER, with a human resource director and our chief operating officer to go over a personnel problem that had to do with somebody working from home. So trust me, the level of frustration with employees if they can't get an answer to their problems can be significant. That's really interesting. Yeah. I had a lot better things to do than that, but I did it anyway. Okay, so that's very funny that you brought that up, because that the level of frustration is not good when people feel like you're not paying attention to them and their problems.
Absolutely. And that's what this event and what Leadercast is here to do, is to give these leaders the tools to get better. And we have seen that people are very receptive, and it's been proven time and time again to an event. They'll commit one day to maybe getting better. It might be hard for them to commit 4 or 5 days or go to an off-site conference. But what we really focus on is that one-day inspirational, impactful event that they can leave with tools to help their company get better, to serve their employees better. And then again, if we can impact those leaders, it's going to impact way more than just the organization. And then the bottom line of the company, the research is showing that it's about a 7-to-1 ROI on if you spend on employee development and leadership development to your company's bottom line. So it is an investment that pays off in way more ways than just financially or culture. And so that's what this Leadercast 25 event is about. That's coming on April 8th to Kansas City. And you mentioned a lot of the names. One name you didn't mention that people are probably the most excited about is Jesse Cole, the owner of the Savannah Bananas. And
the one who wears the yellow hat.
The yellow hat.
I did do my research. I just didn't mention him.
Well, I'm glad you didn't. It gave me a chance to plug him. But they just sold out NFL Stadium a couple days ago. And absolutely amazing what they have done, transforming baseball into a show. But what Jesse's going to be talking about is transforming your clients into fans of your company. And so,
how interesting! What an interesting concept.
And I think we can all take away. He won't be talking. I mean, baseball will be included, but if you're not a sports fan, you're a business owner. He's going to be talking about principles that can make your business better and through customer service. And I've seen firsthand with Maria and her team what they do with customer service and how they treat their people and how they truly care at RPS BBDI. And that's what Jesse's going to be speaking on is transitioning from just just buying a product or turning it into a transaction to a relationship. And so that's what he'll be hitting on, and his excitement in his presentation, I've seen it, it's amazing. And then you throw in Olympic gold medalist and Dominique Dawes. She'll be talking about the mindset of a champion. And as we've seen, the mind impacts so many things on how we show up to work, how we show up at home. John Gordon has written the Power of Positive Leadership, the Energy Bus. He's worked with a number of pro sports teams, college teams. And then we have a group called the Afterburner, which is a man and woman fighter pilot duo that will be speaking military leadership and how you can take that and put it into your business. And then Bob Kendrick, who is probably the best storyteller almost anyone has ever heard. We'll be speaking on leadership from the greats of the Negro Leagues, like Cool Papa Bell and Satchel Paige and Buck O'Neill, and how they navigated very tough times and led through those times. And then Hal Elrod, who wrote a book called The Miracle Morning, is also an amazing speaker. So we're excited to bring
That's a great lineup.
It's a phenomenal lineup, and bringing them to Kansas City, to the Midland, to really help grow leaders and impact companies.
So folks go to the conference and they come away and they're fired up with what they learned. How do they follow? Or do you have follow-up programs? I know we were off air there on the break a few minutes ago, and we were talking about the fact that you have teams around the country. How do they interact? So the employer comes to this. He likes what he sees. He says, "Yeah, I need to do this, but I need help." Okay, I can't do a one-day conference and then implement this whole damn thing. I need help. Talk about how you guys do that.
Sure. We talk about that, the conference being the fire starter, the catalyst. It really gets people focused, dialed in, and encouraged. But yeah, you can't keep that as being your only thing that you do. So we have Leadercast 365, which is our digital platform, and we take all of the content from our speakers, and a lot of them are speakers from the past stage: Jim Collins, Patrick Lencioni, Peyton Manning, Magic Johnson, Nick Saban. If they've written a book on leadership or a leadership expert, they've been on the Leadercast stage at some point. And every time we have a speaker, we actually take them backstage and interview them for about an hour. And then our team will cut that down into 2-minute clips, 3-minute clips, 5-minute clips that's digestible, impactful, has takeaway questions. So if I'm a business owner or an executive or a leader in my organization, come to the event, be inspired, and then take the Leadercast 365 throughout the year and reaffirm those lessons that you learned. And we want it to be transformational for your company and for yourself, not just show up and kind of what we call like paint a rusted, paint over rust, because eventually the rust is going to come back out.
Yeah.
You have to be intentional. And I tell people a lot of times, leadership development is not rocket science. You're not going to potentially hear something you've never heard before. Hopefully you hear it in a different way. Maybe you hear it in a more applicable way, but you have to be intentional with what you're doing with yourself and your employees, and we are able to do that with the event and then Leadercast 365.
So when they leave the event, they're able to, with Leadercast 365, continue with the process, training, learning, bringing people in from their organization, let's say the chief operating officer, chief financial officer, the human resource director, to get them involved in the program so they can learn, how do I help implement these things in our company to make the culture here better? Does that make sense?
Yep, absolutely.
And so that's basically how it works.
Yeah, and then they can also, so for those companies, and the majority of the actual companies that we have really worldwide, we're in other countries than just the U.S., but they can take this event, we will produce it, and we have what kind of a conference in a box. So some of these large organizations will have a Leadercast day, and they will break off and they'll go into their cafeteria or boardrooms, and they might gather 200 of their employees, and we have facilitation materials, everything they need to have their own conference within their team. So they can even do that in Seattle or New York, and that's how a lot of companies utilize our content, and then they have the stuff throughout the year with Leadercast 365.
That's really great. It sounds like a full package.
It really, it is. So
a tremendous opportunity. If you're interested in this, once again, the event is April 8th at the Midland Theater here in downtown Kansas City. They've got a phenomenal lineup of speakers. I think it's well worth going to. And you can sign up by going to leadercast.com. Once again, it's April 8th. If you're interested in getting, to the conference and becoming part of it, if you can't, and you just want to learn more about Leadercast, and maybe you want to take a look at this and wait, when are they going to have the actual show? I mean, the presentation on the 8th. When will that actually be online for people who couldn't get there?
Premiere May 8th. So 1 month later.
Yeah, so a month later on May 8th, it'll be there. But you would have an opportunity, obviously, to learn a lot about what they're doing. I urge you, if you can, and you have the time, to make the time to go to this. It might make a big difference in the culture of your company and your success. We'll be right back after the break. You're listening to America's Healthcare Advocate, broadcasting here on the HI Radio Network, coast to coast across the USA. We've got more. Stay tuned. Welcome back to America's Healthcare Advocate Show, broadcasting coast to coast across the USA here on the HI Radio Network. You can find out more about us by going to the website, americashealthcareadvocate.com. Send me an email if you've got a question or comment. I'll be happy to help you if I can. In studio with me today, Maria Ahlers, president of RPS Benefits by Design, and Brian Morris, president of Leadercast. We are talking in this segment about Leadercast. They've got an upcoming event, which is April 8th here at the Midland Theater in downtown Kansas City. You can go to join the event in person if you want to go. Leadercast.com. is the website, or you can get discounted tickets if you call 877-385-2224. That would be RPS Benefits by Design and Maria's folks there. So if you call that number, you can get discounted tickets to go to this event, and it might be well worth your while to take a look at that. So once again, if you want the discounted tickets for the event on April 8th at the Midland Theater, it's 877-385-2224. And I know your staff's going to be thrilled to get all these phone calls.
Yes, we will be.
So let's talk about the second part of this, Brian, and that is, so, the CEO and maybe the CFO and the C-suite people, they get involved in this program. How does this, I don't want to use the word trickle down, but how do you bring this down to lower levels of employees in the company, directors, administrators, other people in the company, so that they start to become part of this culture to change the way the company's operating, type of thing?
Yeah, and I probably should have done a better job of kind of hitting on that point, because that is how the majority of our companies will utilize it. It's obviously the C-suite and those people leading from the top, but so many people are leading from the middle or in different positions.
Right.
And so it is some of our best case studies of companies that utilize us. It's not just, it doesn't stop there. It goes all the way through the company to various levels. And what we talk about, and there's a great quote from Frank Sonnenberg, I'm going to read, it says, "There's only one investment that is guaranteed to never go down, and that's an investment in yourself." So if I'm an employee or a person that's trying to get better, that is a self-driven learner or is a leader, maybe they don't have the title yet, but they're a leader, investing in yourself is the best way to continue to separate yourself and add value to your company. And so these companies that see that, the more value they can add, the more leaders they can develop within their organization, then the better off their organization is in health and bottom line, all those things. So it's not just for the C-suite leaders. It's not just for the big companies. It really is for everybody. And we have a large number of individuals that buy, that get on our platform and subscribe to Leadercast 365 because of the content that's there. They use it for self-development and improving themselves.
If I'm the employee in the company and I see that you're doing this, and we bring everybody into the break rooms, or maybe we, rent a space somewhere and we spend the day going through this, the message that I get if I'm the employee is, they really give a damn about us. They really care. When you hear that 65% of the people would rather get rid of their boss than get a pay raise, that ought to scare the daylights out of people, okay? That's definitely not good. So if people hear they're making an effort here, maybe it's not perfect, but we're trying. And incrementally, we're seeing things are getting better. I think that delivers a pretty powerful message. Yes?
Absolutely. And it's a message that when we're talking to companies and you're looking at the generations that are within your organization, Gen Z is coming in with a completely different mindset of what they're looking for. And they're looking for impact. They're looking for development. They're looking for opportunities like this. So you have to be looking at all of your employees and where are you meeting them on their development journey? Where are you meeting them kind of in their career stage? It's really important to understand that. So, but you hit it perfectly. What this does, it just impacts in so many positive ways the employee's life, and then it impacts your company and your culture and people that want to work for you. One of our partners, Advent Health, that's the reason that they're backing it, is because they want everyone to know that they're committed to leadership development, and because when they're hiring people, they want people to know we care about you in a lot of other ways than just how you perform at work.
And speaking of Advent, I use the Advent facilities, the ER and urgent care when I need to, and I've always been impressed with the way they treat people. It's very different than what you see in a typical hospital, so to me, that kind of a message to the people that are working in that company says a lot. The other thing that I find interesting, and I think back to some of the examples, I remember sitting down with a company that owned 5 nursing homes, and we were talking about doing their health insurance. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. What's your turnover? I'm going to guess it's probably 50 or 60%. And the owner, the lady that was in her, laughed, and she said, no, Carrie, it's actually more like about 98%. And I said, do you have any idea idea what that's costing you? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, granted, a lot of that had to do with pay and benefits. And one of the reasons why they were trying to put a really robust benefit program together was retention. But I have to think, in looking at companies, Brian, one of the biggest costs to your company is if you're having turnover problems and you're not stabilized, the message it sends to the other employees and the cost to retrain and retrain and retrain, that's got to be a huge issue.
It absolutely is. And that cost is about 2.5 times what you're paying that employee is your cost to replace them. And additional data that's come out is companies that are investing in professional development, leadership development, engagement, retention, they're seeing about a plus 8% to the bottom line of their company. So
it's huge.
It's huge. And when you're getting into companies like Advent,
Advent's,
or
Advent
even
Health is big.
Even a local company that maybe has 10 employees, you start talking about 8 to 10% of an increase just from that very thing. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it does make a difference. Thank you for coming in today. Thank you, Maria, for being here again. If you want information, you want to go to the event, it's leadercast.com, leadercast.com. You want discounted tickets, 877-385-2224, 877-385-2224. Check it out. You might be surprised at what you learn just looking at what they've got to offer. Go up on their website. I was up on it this morning. It's pretty impressive. I'm going to be there. I hope you all will be there as well. So once again, if you want to go, it's leadercast.com. Discounted tickets are 877-385-2224. And now I leave you with this thought from Albert Einstein. The one who follows the crowd will usually get no further than the crowd. The one who walks alone is likely to find himself in places no one has ever been. Remember, friends, it's a funny thing about life. If you refuse to accept anything but the very best, you most often get it. Thank you for listening to America's Healthcare Advocate Show, broadcasting coast to coast across the USA here on the HIA Radio Network. Goodbye, America.